Most people think discipline is about willpower, waking up at 5 a.m., or grinding through misery. But what if I told you that real discipline actually feels easy? We've been sold this idea that discipline requires constant willpower and sacrifice, that to achieve anything worthwhile, you must wage a daily battle against your own desires. But after studying the habits of elite performers across dozens of fields, I discovered something that changed everything about my approach. I used to believe I lacked discipline. My goals would start with enthusiasm, only to fade within weeks. I'd set ambitious targets for fitness, productivity, or learning, and inevitably, I'd find myself back in old patterns, feeling like a failure. The cycle was predictable: initial excitement, early progress, growing resistance, then abandonment, followed by self-criticism and promises to try harder next time. You probably know this cycle. The meditation practice that lasted 3 days, the diet abandoned by Thursday, the journal that has 4 entries before collecting dust, the language learning app with a 12-day streak from 6 months ago. What I didn't understand then was that my entire approach to discipline was fundamentally flawed. I was trying to force change through sheer willpower. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share the surprising morning technique that tripled my productivity without requiring any additional effort. It's counterintuitive, but it works for nearly everyone who tries it. But first, let me show you the foundation that makes all discipline strategies actually work. That all changed when I made a discovery that would transform not just my habits, but my entire relationship with discipline. I decided to stop fighting against my nature and start designing for it instead. Let me tell you, discipline isn't about having incredible willpower. It's about creating environments where good decisions become the path of least resistance. For years, I approached discipline like it was a character trait that I simply lacked. I'd look at highly productive people and assume they possessed some internal strength that I didn't have. I'd download productivity apps, buy planners, and set ambitious goals, believing that this time would be different. Yet within days, I'd find myself struggling against the same old patterns. I'd blame myself for lacking motivation, for being lazy, for not wanting success badly enough. What I didn't understand was a fundamental principle of behavioral psychology. Our environments shape our actions far more powerfully than our intentions do. Research shows that willpower isn't an unlimited resource. It's more like a battery that depletes with use. The science of behavior design reveals something startling. People who appear highly disciplined often aren't exercising more willpower than anyone else. They've simply structured their environments so that good decisions require less effort than bad ones. This approach is called making good behaviors easier and bad behaviors harder. It sounds almost too simple, but the evidence overwhelmingly supports this approach. The breakthrough came when I stopped seeing myself as someone who lacks discipline and began identifying as someone who designs environments for success. This wasn't just semantics. It fundamentally changed how I approached every habit I wanted to build. Instead of relying on motivation, I started making tiny environmental adjustments that transformed my daily choices. When your environment works with you instead of against you, discipline becomes almost effortless. I'd love to hear where discipline feels toughest for you, whether it's staying consistent with fitness, staying focused, eating well, or something totally different. Drop it in the comments and let me know what you're working through. It helps me to improve and create content that actually supports you. My friend, the real enemy of discipline isn't laziness. It's the belief that you need to feel motivated before taking action. I'll start when I feel ready. I need to get motivated first. I just don't feel like doing it today. Successful people probably wake up excited to work. If I were truly passionate about this, it wouldn't feel so hard. I shouldn't have to force myself to do things that matter to me. These thoughts would paralyze me in moments of decision. I'd wait for motivation to strike, believing that was the missing ingredient in my discipline formula. And when motivation didn't come, I'd take it as evidence that perhaps I wasn't pursuing the right goals. In a moment, I'll share a 30-second evening routine that makes it so much easier to follow through on your most important task, even on those mornings when motivation's nowhere to be found. But first, there's a mindset shift you need to hear. It's the foundation that makes the rest actually stick. We've been conditioned to believe that action follows motivation, that we need to feel a certain way before we can act a certain way. But the neuroscience of habit formation tells us something completely different. Research shows that our emotional brain, which drives motivation, is activated by action, not the other way around. In other words, motivation doesn't lead to action. Action creates motivation. Studies on willpower further reveal that what we interpret as lack of motivation is often just our brain's natural resistance to energy expenditure. Our brains are wired for conservation, not achievement. The solution isn't found in discovering the secret to constant motivation. It's found in moment-by-moment choices to take small actions, regardless of how you feel. I started practicing a simple technique. Whenever I noticed myself waiting for motivation, I'd say, I don't need to feel like it to do it, and then take one small step, just putting on running shoes or opening the document I needed to work on. Every time you act without requiring motivation first, you build the neural pathways that make discipline your default state, rather than your struggle. When you stop relying on willpower and start building systems, something remarkable happens. Discipline becomes automatic rather than forced. The change wasn't immediate. There was no single moment where everything suddenly clicked. Instead, it was a gradual realization that my daily actions were becoming more consistent, more aligned with my goals, and strangely enough, requiring less mental effort. I'd notice small shifts. A workout that would have previously required an internal pep talk became just what I did at 6 a.m. A distraction-free writing session wasn't a victory of concentration, but simply what happened when my phone was in another room and my browser extensions blocked social media. I discovered what psychologists call automaticity, that state where behaviors require minimal conscious effort. Studies show that once a behavior becomes automatic, it activates the basal ganglia part of the brain, rather than the prefrontal cortex, meaning it requires significantly less mental energy. Research finds that about 43% of what we do every day is performed out of habit, not conscious decision. The key insight is that people with the most self-control aren't necessarily exerting their willpower more often. They're triggering automatic routines that move them toward their goals. The foundation of this transformation is habit stacking, attaching new behaviors to existing ones. Instead of relying on memory or motivation, you anchor new habits to established routines, creating a chain reaction of positive behaviors. What's fascinating is how this shift affects not just what you do, but how you feel about what you do. The psychological burden of discipline disappears. You're no longer fighting yourself. Your systems are simply carrying you forward. You begin to experience what researchers call deep satisfaction, not the fleeting pleasure of immediate gratification, but the profound contentment that comes from living in alignment with your values and goals. But the real magic happens when you realize this transformation extends beyond just getting things done. Have you ever experienced a moment when discipline seemed to click for you? Share your story in the comments about a time when you found yourself naturally doing something that used to require tremendous willpower. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. True discipline isn't proven when everything is going well. It's proven when every emotional signal tells you to quit. I was halfway through a critical project when everything seemed to fall apart. A family emergency demanded my attention. My usual routine was disrupted. My sleep suffered. And every cell in my body seemed to scream for abandonment of my commitments. In the past, this would have been the perfect storm of excuses to quit. My inner voice would have reasoned, you can always restart when things settle down, or it's okay to take a break under these circumstances. But something different happened. The systems I had built carried me through. Not perfectly, my output certainly decreased, but they kept me moving forward when pure willpower would have failed completely. The morning routine I had established didn't require a decision. My body simply moved through the motions. The distraction-free environment I had created didn't suddenly let Netflix in because I was tired. The social commitment I had made to my accountability partner didn't dissolve because I didn't feel motivated. By the time the crisis passed, I hadn't lost momentum. I hadn't fallen into the cycle of quitting and restarting that had characterized so much of my previous life. What I realized in that moment wasn't just that I could be disciplined. It was that I had become someone who simply didn't consider abandonment as an option. This is the ultimate test of your discipline transformation. Can you continue when motivation is completely absent? Can you trust your systems when your feelings are screaming for immediate comfort? Can you maintain consistency when life throws its inevitable curveballs? The freedom comes when you realize that discipline isn't about perfect performance. It's about reliable systems that account for your humanity, including your limits, your fluctuating energy, and your need for rest. When your systems include plans for failure and recovery, you create resilient discipline, the kind that bends but doesn't break under pressure. And that's when discipline transforms from a daily struggle into a sustaining force. The secret to achieving discipline the easy way isn't found in motivational quotes or forcing yourself to try harder. It's found in a fundamental shift from willpower to system design, from fighting your nature to aligning with it. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. There were still plenty of moments when I'd slip back into old patterns, when I'd try to muscle through with willpower, or when I'd wait for motivation that never came. But with practice, those moments became less frequent and less damaging. Today, I move through my priorities with a sense of ease I once thought impossible. Not because I've mastered the art of forcing myself to do hard things, but because I've designed my life so the right things are often the easiest things to do. I no longer pride myself on pushing through resistance. I focus on eliminating resistance before it arises. I don't rely on decision-making in crucial moments. I make decisions in advance through carefully crafted systems. And paradoxically, this approach has made me more productive than all my previous attempts at hardcore discipline combined. This doesn't mean I never face challenges or need to exert effort. It simply means that my baseline of consistent action happens automatically, saving my limited willpower for truly novel situations that require conscious choice. This transformation is available to anyone willing to make the same fundamental shift, from trying to become disciplined to designing for discipline. From focusing on your shortcomings to focusing on your systems. This journey's just getting started. 1 year from now, you'll thank yourself. Tap into the next video and keep that forward motion alive. You're closer than you think. The disciplined person you want to be already exists within you. They're just waiting for you to stop fighting yourself and start designing for success.